Hey MMT followers, Christina Fuges with MoldMaking Technology for another quick MMT chat. My guests today are from Eden Tool Company in New Freedom, PA, a precision plastic injection mold builder, and the newly formed Eden Manufacturing. They are a manufacturer of engineered medical components. So meet Mike Eden, president of Eden Tool Company, and Dave Tomic, vice president of Eden Manufacturing. Hello, gentlemen.
Hello. Hello.
You guys were actually or Dave was, you were my last shop interaction before COVID-19 at the MD&F West show back in February, if you recall, Dave. And you were my first visit during COVID. So, I mean, I'm going to remember you forever. You're about 2.5 hours from my home office. And I have to say that walking into your shop, and the meeting the team during this crazy time, it felt normal. It was such a relief, So let's talk about COVID. Let's talk about COVID and its impact on Eden, especially since, you focus a lot on medical mold. So first, how is everyone and how is business?
Well, COVID has been a disruptor. It's been a disruptor to your schedule. It's been a disruptor to my schedule, our schedule, and it's really been a disruptor to Eden to some level, right? And in some cases, it's been a good disruptor. In some cases, it's been a bad disruptor. So business is, I think, status quo, because what some of the hindrance that COVID delayed projects, it accelerated others. So it's a little bit of a two-edged sword.
Yeah. What kind of precautions? So when I was there, it felt comfortable. So what kind of precautions did you put in place to keep your employees safe, or at least for them to feel safe?
Well, one thing we did was we locked we locked the doors and wouldn't let the salesmen in, and wouldn't let outside people unless it was totally necessary. Especially we had a new V33i installed, and there were some things that we needed to update on that, and it's like those guys traveling all over the place. Nothing we had was a dire need, so we put some of that stuff off. We gave this is affecting people different ways, handling different ways. So we're led up to the individuals on how they want to handle it, give them enough space. And if they felt comfortable eating lunchroom, that's fine. If they didn't, that's fine too. So we just gave them the space and just told the guys, especially younger guys, like, don't be stupid, don't go out and go out those when there's a bunch of parties are going on. Just try to be safe about it and smart about it.
Be smart. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Do you feel your leadership style was tested with this all happening since March, and especially in terms of keeping up morale with employees? Because it seems to be the more shops I talk to, maybe not so much now, but definitely in the beginning, that was a challenge. Like, people were just afraid because it was more that we didn't know back in March versus what we know now. But still, depending on who you are, it's a sensitive topic, and you have to be cognizant of people, how they feel about it. So did you change your leadership style at all?
As for me, not really. Those guys out there, they lead themselves. I mean, we don't hire warm bodies here. They're good quality people. They understand what needs done, and they were very fortunate they were able to work through all this where a lot of people weren't. And we were very fortunate. And when that first started happening, we had calls from our customers like, "What are you doing? We need you to be open. Do we need you to write anything to the governor stating that you need to be open for us, because we're direct supplier to a lot of these big OEMs, So it felt good that we were being part of it, and you helped things out. And even though we didn't do a lot of COVID projects, we did help out third party and then some projects that we be able to speak out on. So, but as for the guys at shop, I mean, they did a wonderful job. Just like I say, being smart and understanding where we need to go, and putting those extra hours in we need to. And like I say, we got all good guys, and Eden Tool wouldn't be here 20 years ago. It didn't come just by myself. It came with a whole team, and it's all about relationships throughout the years with being relationships with vendors, customers, and our own employees. So
it's all connected, right? Especially in a time of crisis mode. It was amazing to me and so inspiring just to see that complete supply chain, just coming together just to get things done when they need to get done. Whether it was COVID related or not, people were just coming together during that time. And that to me, that defines especially American manufacturing, so it's been an uplifting time as much as it's been crazy. So let's talk about the virus related projects, because during the past 5 months, a lot of shops have been really tested and really been able to see what they're truly capable of, because they had to not cut corners, but they had to do things differently to get the job done in less time, and it was just amazing to hear those stories. So before we get into maybe any examples of what you were part of, let's give the audience a little snapshot of Eaton Tool's specialty, so there's something to kind of compare, give a comparison of what the projects are for COVID related versus what you do every day.
You want to take that one, Dave, or you want to?
Yeah, sure. So Eaton Tool, you know what, our core specialty at Eaton Tool Company is high volume, high cavitation medical molds. That's really the core focus. So, for COVID for us, that's still the same, right? That's the testing modules and stuff. Those are all still the same. They're high cavitation, high volume components. So from a core competency point of view, that hasn't changed. That is our core competency. Okay. But what has changed is the landscape and supply chain, right? So supply chain, people are working from home. It's harder to get answers. It's harder to get approvals. If there's some technical gaps that need to come through and need resolution, they're harder to get resolved. So some of that stuff is a little bit more challenging. So you definitely have to work on communication, that's for sure. The other big one is like Mike said, Eaton Tool's been around for 20 years. They have great relationships with both customers and suppliers and employees. And part of that is it's in times like these that you can leverage that relationship, right? So you call up suppliers that you've been working with for many years and say, hey, we need expedited on this, or we need moved around. We had to move some stuff around in our shop schedule to get some of this done. And our suppliers were, moved some stuff around to get some of our stuff done. And that's really where the relationship goes. You can't build a relationship in a crisis, but so you have good relationships all around you so that in a crisis, you can leverage them.
That's the truth. I mean, that is a recurring theme with Eaton Tool itself, is relationships. And you are definitely, I like that quote. You can't build a relationship in time of crisis when everything's urgent. So what do you think was the number one, or what has been tested the most throughout the past 6 months on, within your crew, within the workforce?
I don't know. I mean, it's nothing, it's not, nothing's really changed here at Eaton Tool. I mean, it's always been, everything's, you get those projects that are delayed and not because of Eaton Tool, just because of different internal mechanisms within the OEMs, and they want to make it happen real quick. So we're accustomed to changing things around and moving some things around and jogging, shuffling, and that happens on a daily basis. We have to do that with breakdowns also. We got to, I have a whole day scheduled, and 7 o'clock in the morning I get an email. It's like, hey, we got a mold busted up here. We need to get it back online as soon as possible. So we're used to getting shuffled around. My guys are used to getting shuffled around. So shuffling our workload around to handle some of these COVID projects it's not out of the norm for us. So it's
good. That becomes a competitive advantage at this point.
Yeah, it does, and it's being small. We have an availability and capability of reacting very quickly. Where bigger shops, it would take 3 days to figure out who's gonna be a project manager and who's gonna work through it and who's gonna set up the worksheet and go through all the paperwork, and then our molds back up and then back in the press and running. So that is a big advantage of being small. Even though we are small, our machines are very high level machines. We run them after hours. Again, with predictable manufacturing, if you can't be confident of what's coming off that machine, you can't run after hours. So that's been a huge thing for Eaton Tool, and we partner up with Makino and to buy the high level machines, and that partnership's been good for us. We want to continue that, and so we have the high level EMs, we have the wires and sinks, and the first wire we got just it didn't really wasn't predictable. It's like it's got to go. So So we got got what we need now, and so back comes predictability, and back comes the 24-hour running, and come in the morning, and it's good. So
it's good. Well, you answered my question about. I was going to ask, was there a specific technology or strategy or process that helps during all this time? And you answered that. It's your people and it's your technology, and you just listed that for me. So thanks for getting ahead. So
yeah, it's definitely, excuse me. So the technology here, that's one thing. When I went out on my own, 20 years ago, the shops, I worked at a lot of smaller shops. Never worked at a big shop. But again, they were looking at, they were some older owners. They weren't looking into the future. And I knew starting out, it's like we need to buy into technology. I knew where I wanted to go. So I needed to choose my own destiny at that point, because none of the local shops here really wanted to buy into technology. And I started in 2000 when everybody else was going out of business, where everybody's offshoring, and there's a lot of shops going out of business area, and that's when I started. So my seasoned toolmaker has been with me, 15, 17, 18 years, and every single one of them came to me because they didn't have a job. The places around here closed up. So they all came, and here I was starting out and then growing, and everybody else is going by the wayside. But it's knowing where we need to be in 5 years, not looking where we need to be in 6 months.
Exactly. That's a testament to what you've built. So speaking of things being offshored, have you experienced, especially in the first half of this year, anything being reshored? Are you getting jobs or work from companies or customers that would typically go overseas?
You can join in that, Dave. I mean, that's, we've seen a little bit of it, but, again, Dave and I see, I'll let Dave answer this question with the manufacturing side, because it's basically is what our business model is going to be with e-manufacturing. But go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, so we see, there will be some reshoring. It's hard to quantify. Really what we see more of, and maybe not to use a reshoring technique, there'll be much more redundancy added to the supply chain. So what we're pretty confident will happen, and what the whole launch of e-manufacturing is, even before COVID, is redundancy in the supply chain, risk analysis. We've all seen little hotspots. New York went through a hotspot, New Jersey. Well, you could be a great supplier, but if you happen to be in a hotspot to do nothing of your own, you have a major supply chain challenge. And redundancy in the supply chain is a big one. I think that's one of the disruptors that COVID has made plain. So that's really what we're about, and that's really what we saw even before COVID. That if companies do risk analysis properly, they do need a lot of redundant supply chain for critical components, and really what e-manufacturing is all about.
Got it. Moving forward, what would you say is both of you, what is your number one concern about COVID?
That's an easy one. I don't like the term the new norm.
Me neither.
The new norm, I have a tough time dealing with, because the new norm is not is really going to hurt manufacturing, because the fact of everybody working from home. What Dave and I both see is a lot of projects just flatlined. They just can't get moved along. Those big decisions got to be made in the boardroom a lot of times, and it's very hard sitting behind a screen, and a lot of times it's made on decisions pushed to one person. Yep. It's going to be a group effort, and we find it more than anything through COVID. The worst thing that's come out of this for us is to try to get something done. It seems that you got to pull information out. All the information is delayed. People can't get back to you, as quickly as what we were accustomed to, which delays the end timeline. In fact, but that's a big thing on mine. And Dave, you can probably fess up to that also.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. That's a big one. And then really it's anxiety related, right? That would be the second one I would throw in there. And keeping people level, keeping the workforce level, keeping everybody even keel, and our customers, and just trying to be a stabilizing force, and not an extreme one way or the other force, right?
Yeah, I like that. And that goes hand in hand with your the value that you put on relationships, because COVID, if anything, with you, if you can't see face to face, or your typical way of interacting with customers or peers or colleagues is different now. So you hope that's not the new normal, because you don't want to have to master that, because I still don't know how you build relationships virtually, but maybe it won't be proved wrong. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I will try not to say the new normal. Yeah.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. Yeah, I would agree with that. It's very difficult to make a relationship virtually. You can continue a relationship virtually, but it's very difficult to make it.
Yes. So lastly, and this is kind of related, but once this is all said and done and everyone's allowed to go back to work and go back out on vacations and travel, how do you see mold manufacturing emerging from this? What do you see? How do you see a typical shop, doing things differently, or will you think they'll just be, have they been exposed to exposed to different ways of doing things, to look inwardly and change by this technology, change the process? Like, how do you see mold manufacturing coming out of this?
Well, I think one thing I see is going to be I think it's going to be jammed up pretty hard. Supply chain is going to be tight. Timelines are going to probably reach out a little bit, because all these, like I say, all the projects we started in early, late 19 and early in 20 here, just they're not done, but they're put on hold. So all these projects everybody's going to want to streamline, try to get up and running as quick as possible once everybody starts, cutting money loose and looking at projects, cutting projects loose. And I see a big bottleneck there for all of the mold making industry. It's just going to be, the 8, 10, 12 week lead time is going to be pushed way out, is my gut feeling. Everybody's going to place these molds in these projects, and it's all going to be done at one time. But so we have a lot of projects that have been put on hold. Supposed to be released first, second quarter this year, and it's going to be third and fourth, and now they're pushing maybe, might be fourth quarter, might be first quarter of 21. So you just don't know where they're heading and what, but we have no control over that. We got to deal with it.
It's hard to plan that way, isn't it?
Yeah, sure.
Is that the same on the Eden manufacturing side, Dave?
Yeah, it is for sure. And again, it's a little bit of a blessing and a curse. So for sure, there's certain things that are delayed. But again, companies, I think, will do a much better job doing risk analysis to the supply chain and adding some diversity. So there'll be some uptick based on that. And we want to position ourselves to support that uptick, right? That's exactly what we want.
Exactly. And that's what you're doing. Well, thank you, gentlemen, for your time this afternoon. I'm sure we'll be talking again. We'll stay in touch. Good luck with everything. Remember, everybody listening, for everything mold making, visit moldmakingtechnology.com. Stay safe, stay healthy, and more importantly, stay informed and stay inspired.